This is the 18th executive axiom, and I've titled this Transformation is a Constant. And when I work with organizations, what I found over the years is it's not an event or a project. And invariably, when I walk into organizations, I'll hear comments like, "Well, this is the 12th transformation we've worked on in 5 years." And once you dig in a little bit deeper, you find out there were a lot of them were false starts, but some of them are, oh, we did transformation, and because we had a new group of executives come in, or a new CEO, or somebody like that. So there's this ongoing transformation type of thing, and people are, I, the stories are awesome. But anyway, so the first thing with transformation, I'm going to go through three things. The first thing with transformation is that it really means, if done right, everyone has to change constantly, has to be built into the system. And it's not an IT or a frontline activity alone. And nowadays everything's IT, and and primarily come from the software industry. Worked with many software companies, large ones, and of course, they believe that they're the initiators of transformation, and often they are wrongly, and therefore you get, in essence, what you get. You don't have a system that works very well for customers or employees, for that matter. And when I talk about it only being a frontline activity, there's this constant hierarchical type of attitude that, well, I don't have to change because I'm the CEO or I'm the executive, but all these minions down here, they have to change, because that's what my job is. I make them change, not me. And that is a recipe for disaster also. It's, as a matter of fact, most change that I have been involved with involves the executives having to change how they go about things. And so the executives wind up changing the most. And uh, I mean, that poor performing system that you have that you're trying to transform was built or supported either implicitly or explicitly, and uh, implicity meaning that you allowed it to happen to continue the way that it is. And some people, they came in as an executive maybe later, and the existing system was there, and they just tried to fit in it. But more often than not, most new executives going into a new organization are trying to put their stamp on it, but it can't be done alone. It has to be a organization-wide thing. And when I say that, it really does. I mean, you can't. IT at the beginning, IT, finance, all these areas. There's some things that they can do, but in essence, you're going to begin with the people on the front line with the knowledge of customers, and then you're going to build in, at least in my system. So that's kind of the first thing, is that everyone has to change in the organization. The second is, if the transformation is done correctly, you I'm going to caveat this a little bit, but you may not have to do one ever again. There might have to be some tweaks or some small changes, but you can build, in essence, a company doesn't have to go through all these iterations of transformations. And again, go back to my statement that I said at the beginning. It's not an event or a project. It's something that you're trying to design an organization to perform in a certain way. It may involve some projects in order to get it done, like building a prototype, uncovering what's important to customers, things of that sort. But it is not just an event or project that, oh, I'll do one this year and then next year we'll do a new transformation. It doesn't quite work that way. Not very well. Let's put it that way. I've seen the result of many. So if we look today at the companies, something I warned about last year, probably over a year ago, I started putting out these quarterly updates on the economy. And you look at all these companies right now, they're going through these massive layoffs. And so they weren't really considering, apparently when times were good, running an organization that was effective. They let the fat go. It's like someone doing, someone that's ignoring exercise and eating healthy and things of that, like that, and then they are wanting to climb Kilimanjaro, and they discover, well, my health isn't that great, and so their health has deteriorated over time from not exercising, from not eating healthy foods. And so they're now reactive. Well, I want to climb Kilimanjaro. What do you mean I can't? Well, you're not capable. Your system isn't capable. And your system always needs to be capable of operating at its most effective level. And so that's really the second thing, is that, if you do transformation correctly, then you shouldn't have to do a one again on a massive scale. There'll be a certain type of thinking that you have built in. So the third thing, and it kind of ties into the second, is you need to design certain things into your company or your system. And, chief among those things is the ability to absorb change that happens not from a spreadsheet that an executive gets, but because your frontline people are actively engaged in being aware of changes with customers. They're talking to customers every day. Put them to work, make their jobs meaningful enough that minimum wage is not really what you're shooting for those types of positions. And again, these things are, if a transformation done correctly, and believe me, I've been through many IT transformations, PeopleSoft and SAP and all those types of things. It's not the way to go. That's not where you want to start. It has to be customer driven. And then figure out if the IT is going to help enable what your design of your organization is going to look like. And along with that, as I mentioned, that these customer facing employees, because they have the knowledge when you need it, sometimes very immediately, you need them making decisions about their own work, how to communicate back what they're seeing as far as changes, and that way the gap doesn't widen over a period of time. Then also we need to do a transformation because we're not in touch with our customers anymore. And that's, in essence, what I see. Oh, we missed the boat on it. I mean, okay. You can ask Bud Light about that right now. So along with that, so what I use in my system is something called a customer creed, which is a dynamic, basically document that frontline people are updating in essence to reflect what's important to customers. And that way, it's not a 10 commandments type of a document. It's something that is very dynamic in nature, that you're constantly updating it because you're getting feedback from customers that's different than before. Something else is important to them. It could be some innovation that you're learning about from your innovation pipeline that I talked about in an earlier Axiom. So those are really, I mean, there's much more I could talk about here with regards to transformation, but those are three things that um, I think that you need to consider about a transformation. Yeah, and let's just review them real quick. It means transformation means everyone in the organization, not just the minions, people on the front line. So it's um, it's not something that comes from the hierarchy per se. That you have to operate differently as an executive if you're to do it right, and therefore, if the executives aren't changing, the system isn't going to change. It's the thinking has to change in some manner. And the second thing is do it right the first time, and it most likely will be the last time you really need to do it. It's not the annual project or you know biannual project or semi-annual project or whatever. That's not what to me transformation is really all about. And then the third thing is design into your organization the ability to absorb the changes. Obviously, you're going to feel big ones if a new competitor does something innovative and you have to make changes in association with it. But typically, the incremental changes that you make are going to be good enough um, to be able to absorb that change. Because if you got the front line involved, they will know what to look for, as opposed to checking off all the things that you have them do. Smile on the phone, and you only can spend 2 minutes with a customer, and things that are nonsense. Um, so those are some things with the transformation. Now, this will most likely be the last axiom. I'm gonna put, you know, I I may write a book later and add some other things to it, but for right now, this will be the last axiom that I'll put forth. I'm going to do something a little bit different along the line of axiom, but it's more um, kind of damaging sayings that you have in organizations, like uh, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I hear that quite a bit. Not as much these days because changes seems to be more of a constant. So that's what I wanted to cover. The 95 method basically covers off all 18 things in this axiom. They are axioms for the 95 method. So if you agree with these types of things, then you may be interested in the program that I have. That it's in essence a training program, getting executives involved first. What I do in the executive program is the first piece of doing a transformation in an organization. And so doing that component is, step number one. And I think it's priced right now like $1,500 or so. And so that's a good way for people to begin that want to go hands off. But it comes along with that, $1,500 is a series of phone calls. I typically say 3. Sometimes I take more, but 3 phone calls where I can just kind of coach you through some of the activities that are taught in the lessons. And then a lot of people do fairly well with that. Others are larger organizations, and especially if you're someone in charge of transformation in the middle of a company, then it becomes more difficult because you're in the middle of the company. Even if you're a director, even a VP level, sometimes the top executive group basically wants to control you. People can't control me, and they'll all verify that. And so speaking truth to power, so to speak. Sometimes you need that, especially in the larger organizations, in order to make a transformation hold within it. Some people want to go ahead and try it anyway. Most do. Let me, oh, I can convince them. Okay. All right. Um, Possibly. But I haven't met too many, maybe a couple people that have been able to do it that way. Ultimately, to make the type of transformation that needs to happen in an organization. So, if you do it on your own, I'm not saying you can't do it. It just takes a while. It's a long time. It's a long slog, so to speak. It probably, depending on the size of the organization, sometimes it's just a division of a larger conglomerate. But, you know, I'm going to say take anywhere from 2 to 3 years in order to do it the right way. Sometimes I do coaching or some coaching on site and then some phone support. How long does that take? Well, probably anywhere, depending again on the organization, year to 18 months. When I'm directly involved or someone from my organization is directly involved, I can have a prototype up and running in usually 3 to 6 months for for the organization to rally around that prototype, and then in essence pushing it out to the rest of the organization. Takes a little bit more time depending on the size of the organization and how they grasp the concepts. But typically, some transformations have been happened in as little as 9 to 12 months. So it's possible to get that type of change in the organization rather quickly. But I've been through it, a number of times. So I can't say I've done 100 of them. That'd be a lot. Um, but I've done more than 20, put it that way. So, anyway, that's what I wanted to cover this week. And remember, there is always a better way.